just our little intro for
Yeah,
we're
that's
so
very nice.
thank you. We're so glad that we could have you
Oh,
here tonight.
yeah. Uh,
I'm sure we're all
One
excited.
of the first pages said that I've been in the mortgage business for 30 years. It's been 50 years. So
I was looking for a number and I was like, I don't know.
yeah, it's been a long time. Yep.
We can go right into our questions if
Okay.
Kiana, our co-host, wants to start off with.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So our first question was, when you're judging an equitation class, what's the first thing that you look for?
Well, let me preface this by saying that I believe that equitation is really the basis of equitation is really horsemanship. So for me, it's not, there's no specific position or anything like that is what I'm really looking for. I'm looking for horsemanship, and I am looking for I think it all starts with the rider's ability to make the horse perform. And so you're not likely going to see me pick on one little thing, like, they don't have their heels down enough, or they're not, whatever. To me, it should be a natural, the more natural, the better. It's not a posing contest, although sometimes it looks like it is when, you get people that try to get this ultimate form and just hold that form no matter what. To me, that's not equitation. That's not horsemanship. So that's not equitation. So yeah, for me, it's an overall picture that really starts with the horse. And that being said, I'm judging how the rider is making that picture look the best that it can. And that doesn't mean that, the person with the best horse wins. It's the person that makes their horse perform to its ultimate performance that allows that rider to win for me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I always think it's so interesting the different ways, because when we're doing judging for youth of the year, there's always, I feel like it's helpful to know what we look for and what judges
Sure.
look for.
Sure.
You've obviously been judging at nationals for a really several years in a row. What is your favorite part about judging at nationals?
Well, there's lots of things. I think that number one, it's a huge honor. To me, it's you're being asked for your opinion on something that's very, very important. So it's a huge honor. And I think it's the best seat in the house too. When you're talking about the national specifically, I defy anybody to be able to sit in the middle of the ring and watch the horse show from the middle of the ring, whether you're standing there judging or sitting there waiting for, your turn to judge or whatever. You're really getting to see as close to what the judges see, and if you are a judge, of course, that's, you have to, but it's the best seat in the house. And for me personally, one of my favorite things is the bond that you form with the other judges, the other people in the center ring, the ring masters, the photographer, the announcers, and you're kind of with if you really think about it, you're with those people most of the day, every day, for a week or more. And we have meals together, we do, so those friendships that are formed, some of my best friends in the whole world are people that I have judged Oklahoma with, or other shows too, but Oklahoma in particular. So I love it. I really do. I've done it I think it's 12 times now or something. It's been quite a few times. So I think I'd have to say every time I've enjoyed it a lot. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. It seems really rewarding. What is the most difficult part about judging or being a judge?
Um, the absolute importance of it. I mean, you have to, if you're going to be good at it, you have to take it, it's not, this is not fun and games here. What you do as a judge affects so many things. People's breeding programs, people's decisions that they make on what trainer they're going to be with, people's, the trends that you see in showing horses, and the things that people are going to think are popular because you maybe place that horse or that rider or whatever first. You're setting the trends yourself as a judge. I mean, make no mistake about it. The people that are looking to showing, continuing showing, are going to look for what the judges are pinning. And so it's really, really important. And, that's probably, I think, the toughest part about it is that, it is so important, and you really need to, you have to keep an open mind. You have to absolutely, judge horses and not people and things like that. It's a big responsibility, but I love it anyway.
And the path to getting there, what is that process like? Like, what is the process of becoming a judge?
Well, it's a lot different now than it was when I first got my card, because I've been judging since 1988. Actually, no, it's been before that. 88 was my first year judging the nationals, but back when I first started, we didn't have the judges schools like we have now. So you did have to learner judge, and I did do that. I think when I did it, you only had to learner judge like one horse show. It was much easier back then. So, I think the biggest difference, though, is that the judges that are trying to go for their cards now, it's more expensive, because you have to go to the judges schools, and you don't get to decide where the judges schools are, and if you live in, I don't know, Georgia or something, and you have to go to California or something for judges school that particular year or whatever, that's an expense. You got to pay for your hotel room. You got to do all the things that, and the judges schools are, it's good that they have them, for sure. And I think it's a good thing that that we all get together. And I think the fact that even that, I'm actually headed to the judges school at Gold Cup coming up in next week, I guess it is. And it's going to feel good to be there with other judges and kind of talk about the things that are important and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, it's a lot different than it was back then. Now it's a lot more paperwork involved. It's a lot more expensive. But and then, when you do get your card, there's no guarantee of getting jobs. And so you have to get a little bit lucky there. And I mean, within the first, I want to say it was maybe even the second year that I was judging that I got asked to judge equitation at the nationals. And that was kind of, that for me, I was pretty young back then, and it was a big deal. So, but that just kind of got me started doing it. And I've never really judged a lot of shows, because most of these 50 years that I've been doing Morgans, I've been a horse trainer and had a string of horses to take to horse shows, and including the nationals. And so, I always tried to work it out so that it just happened to be a good year for me to judge and not have to show there. It's not easy. A lot of the people that, most people would think might be good at judging the nationals, they couldn't afford to do it, because it's a lot more profitable for them to take 25 or 30 horses or something than it is to judge. So, yeah.
And kind of going off of that, have your opinions in the show ring changed over time since you've been judging as the breed has changed or as you've learned more? And if so, how so?
Um, I don't know that they've changed necessarily about what I like or dislike or whatever, but rules have changed, and the emphasis has changed somewhat on certain things. None of which has been bad. I think it's all been good. Uh, One of the bigger challenges is the fact that some of our divisions, I think particularly, I would say Classic and Hunter, they went through, Hunter pleasure horses have gone through a metamorphosis, that it's not easy to quantify and explain, but I think it's a beautiful division. I really do. I love a really beautiful hunter pleasure horse. I think that the strain has been on, do we want a horse that looks somewhat similar to an English pleasure horse in hunt tack? I don't know about that. And, so there are some challenges to it. And we've kind of gone through some phases, and I think we need to be careful not to, let the hunter pleasure horses get too hot and spicy and that sort of thing. But I mean, there's some awfully good trainers and good people that know how to present a very, very nice hunter pleasure horse. Classic pleasure division. When I first started at Morgan's, there was no such thing as classic pleasure. In fact, I was on the committee where we tried to set the standards for what a classic pleasure horse would be. Even was there when we thought about what the name would be, classic pleasure and that sort of thing. So it's interesting, where that's gone. I'd have to say that once again, it's a beautiful division, and it's done very well, and I can't complain, that it hasn't, done what it should have done or whatever. But it's one of those. It's been through ups and downs and stuff. So yeah.
And earlier you mentioned that you had trained for a really long time. Has there been a favorite horse that's ever crossed your path, like that you've worked with
Yeah.
in your training career?
Well, I have to say that I have to go back to my very first favorite horse, which was a horse that I had way back in the early 70s. His name was High Hawk. High Hawk was a big black fancy park horse, and he was full of heart and lots of attitude, and he was really, really a great horse. And so he would be my first one. I've had a lot of favorite horses. I mean, I've been very lucky. I've worked with, several of the very best, and it's hard for me to name too many of them. I would say, I've had horses like AFF the Stalker. He was one of my favorites. Cider Bay Sassafras. She was one of my favorites. HPS Starchild. She came from the earlier days. She was one of my favorites. I think she might have been the one that I won my first world championship with personally, where I showed myself. No. Well, yeah, first one that was my own. I showed a horse for somebody else and won a world championship before that. But anyway, there have been quite a few. But High Hawk he was my heart horse, and always will be. He's of course long gone now. So, but he was pretty nice, very nice.
And now switching gears, what made you decide to start in horse show management?
Well, it was sort of by accident in a way. I'd been training horses, and I had, not long before I did my first managing job, I was still training horses. I was in Ohio, and they had asked me to be on the Ohio Morgan Horse Association board of directors, and that very year, Marilyn Ackerman was the show manager for that show for a while, and she had decided she wanted to step down and just be the secretary. And so here we were about to put the prize list out, and she said, I need a name of somebody to be the show manager that I could put in the prize list here. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So they asked me, and I couldn't see any other way. I mean, otherwise, nobody else wanted to do it. So I did it at that point. And it's funny because the very first time, that was the Buckeye Morgan Challenge. That was my very first show, being the official show manager. And that show was riddled with problems. The first year that I was there, we had lost our facility. We used to be at the place in Ohio that now is the Ohio version of the place down in Florida. That's so a great big world equestrian center or whatever. So, but they had changed that place and really didn't want like Morgan horse shows there anymore. They really were focusing on hunter jumpers and that sort of thing. So anyway, we had to find a new venue, and I found something that I thought would work, but we had all kinds of issues with no sound, no lights, no, and it was like trial by fire for me. And I was so exhausted after that show was over, because I was chasing problems and putting out fires I mean, not literally, but I was just putting out fires every minute, it seemed like. And so the fact that I lived through it made me kind of want to do it again. I don't know. Yeah, I was bound and determined it wasn't going to be that bad, every time. And of course, the very next year, we were able to get into the fairgrounds at Springfield, Ohio, and the Champion Center there. So it's gone much better. And then I just progressively got asked to do more shows, and I kind of found myself not looking for another place to go. Not that I didn't want to train horses. I still think of myself as a horse trainer, because I still do clinics and, things like that. But it's just kind of fallen into my lap. And at this point, I can't think of, doing anything else, actually.
And you've done it obviously for many years now, but what is your process now, like from start to finish managing?
Of a horse show. Okay. Well, it's usually it's a continuation from the year before. So, it helps to have all of the records and the paperwork and stuff like that, so that, probably the biggest thing is that, your prize list is it's kind of the Bible of that horse show. And it's really important I believe it's very important for the show manager to be the person that puts that together, because if there's anything in that prize list that you don't know about, then I think you're a failure, in my opinion. So that's kind of where it all starts, is with the prize list. And of course, there are things like hiring the officials, judges, ringmaster, photographer, and all of the official jobs. That's something that you want to do as early as possible. So that's one of the first few things that I do for the following year. It's funny, I get people calling me all the time saying, keep me in mind for judging this year. And I'm like, shoot, I hired my judges 6 months ago. So, there's a lot of stuff you have to do. Like, I start working on next year's show very soon after the show this year, for any show that I do. So, yeah. But there's all kinds of things. I sometimes I think that my my process is a little more than I need to make it because we do have, and every show is a little bit different as far as the show committee and how involved the show committee is going to get and wants to get. Not every show committee is capable of doing some of the things that I, feel that I need to take care of myself. And some of them don't want it any other way. They want to do, I kind of have to step back a little bit, and let them do some of the things that, so they get that rewarding experience too, so it takes a village to put on a horse show. There's no, I mean, I can't say that I do it all myself. That's for sure. There's a lot of people involved, and, I have my favorites that, as far as, the jobs like ringmasters and things like that, everybody has their people that they like to work with. And of course, if you can get them, they can't always get the ones you want either. So everybody's got a busy schedule. There's not enough people doing those jobs these days. So, but does that answer your question? I guess I'm not really, kind of rambling a little bit, but yeah.
Do you have a favorite horse show that you've managed so far?
That's hard for me to say because it's, they all have a different special place in my heart for different reasons, so I can't really say. I mean, I guess maybe the Buckeye is a little special to me because it was the first one. And I kind of feel like we have come a long way since I started managing it. So, maybe you could say that, but I it's, the other shows that I do are very, very important to me, and I love them too. I love every one of them, really. So, I do a show down in Tulsa, Oklahoma that's has struggled a little bit with the size, and we've struggled with the dates and things like that. So, that kind of thing is frustrating, and I especially want it to work out because the people that are involved with that show are so eager for it to work out. And so and it, it's always done okay, and I'm hoping next year we've got a little different date, so I think maybe it'll help. So,
And in managing, what is the most rewarding part for you and the most difficult part, like on either end?
well, the most rewarding thing about it is being that I've been an exhibitor, a trainer, a judge. I've had, I've kind of had a lot of perspective from many different parts of horse showing. It does give me some inside knowledge as to what's important and what people need. And I really feel like it's really rewarding to me when people say, gosh, you make it so easy, and knowing the difficulties that I might have in the past, whatever, with certain things, and making it easier on the exhibitors and making it most enjoyable too. That's the other thing. I do like for it to be fun for everybody, because why would you do it if you weren't enjoying it, so especially the owners and that sort of thing. But I try to make it easy on the trainers. I try to make it so that it's all a lot of things are taken care of for you before you even get there. And so when people thank me for that, and they and they get it, and they see that what I'm trying to do, that's very rewarding. The difficult part is that not everybody understands that. And you can't make everybody happy all the time. So, you have to make some tough decisions sometimes. People try to get away with things that they know, I think for the most part, probably know that they can't do. And I have to be the one to, set it straight. And, so that can be tough. But so far, I mean, I haven't really had too much of that. Sometimes working with the facility people is, I've had some facility people, like the people at the MEC Center, the Michiana Event Center up in Shipshewana, Indiana. They are so great to work with. And twice now, I've had two people that have been my go-to person at the fairground or the showgrounds, that I just love them. I mean, they just, they do what I try to do for everybody else. They try to make my life easier, and that's always great. So, and it's not so great when that person is not trying to make your life easier. So there you have it.
And now switching perspectives again, from a training perspective, what makes a champion rider in your opinion?
A champion rider of any discipline. You're talking about showing horses and whatnot, not
in
just
general,
equitation. I could kind of narrow it down to one word: fearlessness. Of course, there's lots of other things that will make you good, having that feel for a horse and that sort of thing. But the second you introduce fear in a rider, 9 times out of 10, the horse will sense it, and that horse will be ahead of that person every step of the way. To me, fearlessness and not just feeling like you can just do whatever. I mean, obviously we all want to be safe, when none of us want to, but as a person that has worked with riders that had to get on colts and things like that, the ones that I've had, the people that I've worked with that have been the most successful at it and the most helpful to me, are the ones that are not afraid. They understand that the most dangerous part is if you let yourself get afraid. And so I think that's a pretty big part of it. So, yeah.
And again, another topic, but what inspired your work for National Day of the Morgan? Because you were the one who kind of spearheaded that originally.
Yeah. It started with the OMHA, the Ohio Morgan Horse Association. The year before that, we were just looking for projects that that we felt were important, and things that we could do as a club. So we did one in Ohio. I live in Michigan now, but I've always been a Michigan person. But for a while I was training in Ohio there for a while, so that was kind of, I spent 10 or 12 years there, something like that. So anyway, so we did that, and I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was Sherry Cole who, I had done a lot of, publicity and whatnot on Facebook and things like that about, the success of what we did. I mean, obviously it was just in Ohio, so it wasn't, nearly as involved as the national one was, but Sherry Cole saw something like that, and she posted a question to me on Facebook and said, boy, wouldn't it be great if somebody could do this, on a national basis? And I said, well, why couldn't we? And she said, are you saying you would do it? So one thing led to another, and there you go. I'm next thing you know, I'm in the middle of putting together this National Day of the Morgan, and so that's really kind of where it came from. And I really felt strongly, the whole reason that, it was my idea to do the one in Ohio too. I just feel like there's so many so many things that we do for publicity's sake and for promotion and whatnot that are really not targeting new owners and new people in the breed. And I just felt like just introducing non-horse people to Morgan horses was, it couldn't hurt. It certainly couldn't hurt. And as it turned out, I mean, I don't know, it's pretty hard to determine what the level of success was. I mean, I can't say that there were X number of lessons that came out of that program or anything like that, or people that, got into horses or whatever. But I do know that there were a lot of people that saw Morgan horses for the first time, and it was pretty great, I thought. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. What is the number one thing you hope that riders take away from your clinics?
The clinics that I do these days, because I don't have a barn of my own anymore, and I'm not doing, training myself or anything like that, which I would never have time for now. Managing horse shows takes up a lot of time. But I do enjoy doing the clinics. The unique challenge of doing clinics where somebody brings you in for a day or 2 days or 3 days or whatever, is that you're not, what you have to impart as far as knowledge wise and that sort of thing to these riders is not going to be repeated, the same way that you teach it, like on a regular basis. So I have to try to do what I can, make the biggest influence that I can, and get them to understand, kind of where I'm coming from, knowing that it may be the last time they hear it. I don't know, at least in the way that I teach it, So for me, as I said at the very beginning, the most important part of, good riding is that it's not a posing contest, and putting yourself in a position where you think you're in the right spot or whatever, but not being able to ride because you're so stiff or whatever is not a good thing. So I work a lot on form to function, getting the riders positioned in a natural state, and so that they can feel comfortable doing what they're doing. Because if you're not comfortable, you're not going to be able to sustain it for any length of time. So that's where my biggest influence is. The thing that I try the hardest to work on is getting people feeling like they could do this forever, and it feels good, it feels comfortable, it feels doable. So I think that's always kind of a good thing.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I know that sometimes it feels like you have to really.
Yeah. Yeah. I do a lot of, changing that. And probably as much as anything else I do, I try to get people to stop posing, stop being so stiff, stop doing what you think is right, and just ride, and your position will fall into place, into the most effective position you can possibly have, a lot easier than you think. So
On a bigger picture, what is your favorite thing about the Morgan world? Because it's such a special community that we have.
it is. And I think probably the unique part of the Morgan world is the people. I mean, the horses are great, obviously. I mean, obviously they're the most beautiful horses in the whole wide world. And, there's that just kind of goes without saying. I mean, we all feel that way, or we wouldn't be doing this, but the people are so, I guess, devoted to the horses and to the breed itself. And it's really I guess the family atmosphere of it all is really appealing to me. It's kind of been my family. I don't have any kids. I wish I did, but I don't. And um, people say, yeah, you have thousands of kids, because I did have thousands of riders that I taught and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of been my family, and I think it's a family affair, and I think that's a good thing. We all try to, when push comes to shove, we all, have each other's backs and things like that. So I think that's great.
Do you have any advice for junior exhibitors or youth riders as a whole?
Well, my advice would always vary according to what kind of situation they're in. I think that if you have a trainer and an instructor, whatever, listen to that person. You know, because I know, I mean, at one time in my life, I was kind of a thought I knew everything in the world young kid. And there are times that I wish that I would have, try not to learn things the hard way too much, you know. And I think as far as showing itself, you get out of it what you put into it. So if you want to be successful at this, don't go halfway, go all the way into it, and try to do your very best to be the best you can, do the best you can, and work hard. It always pays off, and it will pay off in ways that really sometimes they don't have anything to do with horses. Not horses at all. I've seen so many people that I've taught that have gone on to be very successful people. Some of them have stayed in the horse business. Some of them have become trainers and very successful ones. And some of them have gone on to, be doctors and engineers and, things like that. And, having horses in your life is a positive no matter what. I think it's good for kids in general, and I think it's worth every bit of extra effort you put into your day, your life, to do it. So I guess that's what I would say.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's such a rewarding
Yeah.
sport.
Right.
How has the world of equitation changed since you've become involved with it?
Equitation has gone through, how I was talking about, hunter pleasure and classic pleasure. Equitation, especially as far as saddle seat equitation, I would say saddle seat is probably the most noticeable when it comes to this sort of thing. It's gone through some cycles of popularity. Things became popular that I absolutely did not understand and have not understood, and I think that's kind of leveled out a little bit more now. As I'm going to bring it up again, the world of equitation is really all about horsemanship, and there were some times where it became, I don't know quite how it happened, but it became very popular for riders to pose, to lean back almost too much, to jut their legs out away from the horse in a way that just makes no sense to me at all. I still see some of it. I really do. and I don't like it. I don't like it. I think that riding horses, you really need to use your tools. And so that's one of the things I'm looking for. When I said the very first question you guys asked me was, what do I look for in, when I'm judging equitation? And, is that rider using their tools? Are you using your legs? Are you, and riders that are afraid that the judge is going to catch them using their legs, that doesn't work for me, and they shouldn't be taught that way either. So so I think those undulations of popularity in certain things in equitation have, they've been kind of interesting. And we've gone through some instructors that have been very popular and very successful, that have had one or two things that they taught their riders on a regular basis that I were pet peeves of mine. So that's just coming from me. It's I mean, in general, I think that we've got some, and I think in the Morgan world, we've got some wonderful riders. I do judge. In fact, this year I'm going to be judging in Lexington, Kentucky, at the Saddlebred Show in Lexington, Kentucky, and in Kansas City, Missouri, for the American Royal too. So I judge saddlebred riders as well. And I would say that, I would put up, and back when I was teaching, and I had sometimes a lot of Morgan riders in classes that had saddlebred riders in them. I never felt like my Morgan riders were inferior in any way, shape, or form to the saddlebred riders at all. So I think we should be proud of ourselves as Morgan people, and the Morgan equitation riders should be very confident and feel like they're every bit as good as anybody else. And so, yeah.
Now, speaking very generally, how did you get into horses, and particularly Morgans, in the first place?
That goes back to childhood. And it just so happened that when I was probably 10 or 11, we had lived in the city. There were four of us, four kids in the family, and my dad was always really, really determined that he was going to move us to a farm, and we were going to have horses, and we were going to do this and that. And so once we found, they found a farm, and we moved, and we had a barn there, and we got horses. It just so happened that Mom and Dad used to talk about it all the time, but my sister Cindy and I, one Sunday afternoon, we thought, we're never going to get like a horse unless we like find it ourselves or whatever. So we got the newspaper out, and there was an ad in the newspaper for this horse named Clover Lane Jonathan. And Clover Lane Jonathan was a world champion after we got him and whatnot. But he was, I remember I think he was like $1,200 or something like that, and we were like, oh my gosh, they'll never pay that much for a horse or whatever, and so I remember my sister and I were trying to see who was going to be the one to ask them if we could go see this horse. And we drew straws, and I ended up with a short straw. So I had to be the one to ask Mom and Dad if we could go see this horse. And it turned out that this horse was the perfect horse for a family that didn't know what they were doing, and that's right. And he happened to be a Morgan horse. And my sister, all she had to do was I didn't get to ride him that day, but my sister did, and she got on him, and she said, Daddy, I feel like a princess. It was all over. 2 years later, we probably had, I don't know, 6 or 7 horses, Morgan horses, and so that's how it all got started. And when we were kids, we kind of showed on our own, but we did have a trainer for a while, and it just one thing led to another. And I when it came time for me to decide whether I was going to go to college or do whatever, I had always thought that I might want to be a commercial artist of some sort. So I went into that, but I spent all of my time reading the Morgan magazine in school, in college. Like, this is not working. So I ended up going to work for Carousel Stables. Carousel Stables was the Prices, Phil Price. That's way before any of your time, I'm sure, but it was a very, very large training stable in Bellevue, Ohio, actually. And oh my gosh, we used to win like tons and tons of stuff back in the day. And Phil Price was a very successful trainer and had some of the very best horses in the country. So that kind of really got me dug in. And next thing you know, I went to another barn for a while, and then I came home and I hung my shingle as a horse trainer, and off we went. So,
Well, the stars have kind of clearly aligned for you to be able to become in this industry. And we're kind of circling back, but any advice for someone who wants to become a judge or look into horse show management, like as a whole?
Well, becoming a judge there's your education as a judge comes from years of experience in the horse business. You don't get experienced as a judge until you actually do it, but to actually do your first shows, you have to have been doing it for a while. And granted, for me, a lot of that time was as a kid, because I was judging by the time I think I was 21, the first, something like that. I too much addition for me, but anyway, I would say that, if you're determined to do it, and I have seen a lot of people that are really determined to become judges and end up being, good ones. But then I've also seen a lot of people that want to do it so badly, but they don't have the personality for it. They don't have that, once again, fearlessness, because you have to be pretty brave to step out there and do what is right. There's a lot of that involved with judging. It's not, the decisions that you have to make are not always easy. And it's just one of those things where, there's a certain personality trait that you have to be able to be a good judge, I think. So there's that. Horse show management, be prepared to work hard, because managing horse shows is hard. Some of the hardest work I've ever had to do. More hours, more time. And of course, that's kind of me. That's the way I work. I'm a micromanager in some ways, so there's not much that gets past me. So, I would say just be prepared to work really hard if you're going to try to manage horse shows. So does that answer your question? I guess
It does. I think that's the end of our prepared list. If you have
Okay.
any closing thoughts.
Well, yeah, I think it's great that you're doing this. I looked at a couple of them, before today, so that I would kind of have an idea of you know, your process and whatnot. And I think it's a great thing that you're doing. And you know, I think these are challenging times right now, you know, with the pandemic and with, you know, the threat of world war and, you know, the economy and things like that. It's tough. And I think that having horses and being in the horse world is kind of a great thing. Well, not kind of, it really is a great thing, but sometimes I kind of feel like that's going to help get us, some of us, through, you know. I mean, our love for the horses, our love for each other, you know, and all of this has got to mean something in a world that feels like it's falling apart sometimes, you know. So I think it's I think the horse world is it may struggle, but I don't know, somehow we always seem to bounce back. So I think that's a good thing.
Thank you so much for joining us
Yeah,
today.
thank you so
Oh,
much.
absolutely. Absolutely. It was my pleasure. I enjoyed it a lot, and good luck with everything that your group is doing. And we'll see you at nationals this year. I will be there judging again this year. So so we'll see some of you there, I think, maybe.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
All
Thank
right,
you.
you too. Bye-bye.